All right guys, today we're gonna be installing the Maverick R big fatty intake tube. It's gonna go from the airbox, and this actually comes up by the intercooler for the Maverick R. It's gonna sit something about like this inside the car. The silicone points downward, so air is coming in. It's actually sucking air from the back side. No debris. It's kind of the idea is that this doesn't really catch a whole lot of debris, so you're not like kind of plugging up your air filter. This one goes obviously intake, air filter, turbo. This has an optional debris cage, and the debris cage sits on the front here. It stops the big debris from hitting, like leaves, stuff like that, from getting to your air filter. If you want to go one step further, we have the pre-filter. This will stop sand, all the small debris, and essentially what it's going to look like is you're going to have the cage on, and then you're going to have the pre-filter over the cage. There's a clamp that holds the cage in place. It'll look something like this, a little bit cleaner once you get it all installed, but it's a debris cage with a pre-filter. So that's kind of what sets our intake tube apart from anybody's. It's wire reinforced, so this thing cannot collapse on itself. It is super stiff, super rigid. Probably my favorite piece about the Maverick R silicone parts. We've got, the intake tubes, blow off valve tubes, but this is about installing the big fatty, so let's get to it. All right guys, we're gonna remove the clamp from the factory intake tube. So we're gonna lift this tube up off of the airbox, and then we're gonna reach way up in here, and we're just simply gonna squeeze this tube and pull back, and that will, you kind of just really just gotta peel it out of there. It's in there pretty good. If it's not warm, you're definitely gonna wanna warm this tube up so that the rubber is pliable. All right guys, so we're gonna reach up here, pinch this closed. The trick to getting this off is spraying soap and water on the other side. We'll spray soap and water on the other side of the tube. We'll squeeze this thing down like this and kind of just start to peel it back and peel it out. Guys, you've got your stock intake tube out. Now you're really getting a good comparison of just how much crazier the RPM big fatty intake tube is. One of the important things is that it clears the intercooler better. We're going to spray water on this. You cannot install this without soap and water. Don't even try it. Soap and water this thing so it can slide through. So this is what the zip tie is for. You're gonna take this tube, you kind of need a buddy or a helper. You're gonna taco it, fold it over itself, run the zip tie around it, and then that's how you're gonna get it through the hole. And then when you get up there, you'll cut the zip tie. It'll expand where it needs to be. Before you install it, it should look a little something like this. Heat helps if you got a hair dryer or something to help make the silicone pliable. It really helps with the install. At this time, we're gonna soap and water this whole thing. We'll spray a little soap and water up in there. Silicone loves to slide against soap and water, so it makes installation super simple. So that's what we're gonna do right now. We'll spray up here, get everything nice and wet, soapy, and we'll be ready to slide this puppy up in there. All right guys, we pushed the silicone over the airbox. We're not gonna tighten anything down. We're actually gonna crawl up top, cut that zip tie, and let that puppy go in place first. All right guys, you're just gonna reach in here and just snip this zip tie. Let the hose do its thing. There's a groove cut into the silicone where it seals to the plastic body of the car. Reach back up in here, pull the silicone until that round rib on the silicone is inside the plastic. All right guys, something I wanna point out is that the plastic rides around this ring right here. So the plastic wall, the firewall between the intercooler and the outside here, this is where the plastic's gonna ride. So you wanna shove the silicone in until this is in between it, and then you're ready to install your pre-filter and debris cage. All right guys, now it's time to throw this tube away. Now that you got your RPM big fatty installed, tighten up all your clamps, make sure everything is legit. You need other Maverick R parts, you can catch the catch cans, you've got mid pipes, mufflers, fan override, auxiliary fuel tanks. I mean, we've got a ton of Maverick R parts coming, tons of exhaust. RPMSxS.com. Go get yourself some Maverick R parts.